The changing of seasons can affect how you feel. 1 in 5 people experience some form of depression, no matter the time of year.
At the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, our vision is to build a mentally healthy nation for all. Visit mentallyhealthynation.org to learn more.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Sarah, thank you.
Now, what do we have?
We have
one of our favorite professors.
And I was just with him last night, Professor Alan Dershowitz. It's so great to have you back here on the show. What an event last night at the ZOA. That was awesome.
How come I wasn't invited?
Oh, you were flying back. You were traveling.
Your name was mentioned a few times, however, all very positive.
That's right. We talked about Katz and Cosby.
Oh, I thought you mentioned the word common sense.
Well, that too. That too.
Rita, I'll tell you, if anybody ever wants an MC, there's nobody as good as Rita Cosby. She is fantastic.
I agree.
She kept the event going. She was humorous. She, a lot of people were falling.
And she's not even Jewish.
Right, and that's probably why. We wanted to listen to her, but, the story she told about her father helping Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto, it kept people riveted. I mean, she's better than a Jew. She is
thank you, Professor.
Jews at the time of turmoil. She was absolutely fantastic. And
Professor, thank you.
New numbers on Jewish votes for the country. What were they?
Yeah, this is amazing. 30%, which was the same number as last time, Professor Dershowitz. Why are more Jews not voting for Trump after, what does it take? I mean, October 7th. Oh, my goodness.
People aren't counting right. That's J Street's numbers. Don't believe a word J Street ever says. It counts people who hate Israel as Jews. It counts anti-Semites as Jews. If you go and ask people who live in Jewish communities, the vote was different. Many, many more people in Brooklyn and in parts, of Long Island, where there are Jewish communities.
Yeah, well, this is Pete King.
The votes were overwhelmingly in favor of Trump in some of those neighborhoods. So don't believe what J Street says.
Yeah, Alan, saying this is Pete King. I can tell you in Long Island, in the 5 towns, the Republicans got 90% of the vote of the Orthodox Jewish community in those 5 towns.
And by the way, they were saying 43 to 46% in New York State, which is huge. That's huge. It just was nationally 30%.
Well, I don't believe the 30% figure.
I hope it's bigger. I do. I agree with you. I hope it's bigger.
What people use,
like always, they're trying to blame it on the Jews.
But they use the Hitler definition of a Jew. If your grandparent was Jewish, you're a Jew. That's not the definition that should be used. If you live a Jewish life, if you live as a Jew, what percentage of those people voted for Trump? Very different than if one of your grandparents happened to be Jewish and you're technically a Jew, but never have been near a synagogue, never have been to Israel, never have supported Israel. Those aren't the kind of Jews that should be counted when you're asking what impact President Trump support of Israel during his first term had on the voters. I think a considerable number of people who didn't previously vote for him did vote for him this time, but it doesn't show up in the kind of counting that J Street and some other groups do.
Alan, did any president ever do more than Donald Trump? I mean, you think of the bringing the embassy to Jerusalem,
Abraham Accords.
I mean, undoubtedly, it's me.
I gave him advice on the Golan Heights.
Okay,
he asked me for my legal advice as to whether it was legally permissible for Israel to claim sovereignty over the Golan Heights. He called me. I gave him my advice. He listened to me. He listened to other people as well. I'm not taking credit for this. He certainly listened to David Friedman. But he then recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. And so, no president has done as much, maybe since Harry Truman. Harry Truman, after all, recognized Israel's
and also
right.
Nixon in 1973. But, I mean, sustained activity.
One more thing about Trump. A lot of CNN is going crazy over the fact that Trump wants to fire some generals. That's the way it should be. We have civilian control of the military. Generals don't make decisions except tactical ones. We make the policy decisions. The President of the United States does. Lincoln fired his generals. The most famous thing that Truman did was to fire the most popular general probably in the Second World War after Eisenhower, General MacArthur. So presidents should be in charge of who the generals are. And yet you get Leon Panetta saying, it's the road to tyranny. if a president interferes with who gets promoted to be general. No, as commander-in-chief, you are the civilian head of the army, and you make decisions. And President Trump is right when he says he's going to fire these DEI generals, the ones who think that you can fight a war effectively by having diversity, equity, and inclusion rather than talent and meritocracy as the dominant factors in who becomes active in the military. So Trump's right on that one. He's not right on everything, but he's certainly right on that one.
Leon Panetta, isn't he one of the 51 intelligence officers
that
signed that document?
And I think there will be some consequences for that.
Let's hope so.
There will be some hearings, because that was an outrage. Those 51 people who used their credibility and the credibility of the office given to them in the United States to tell a lie and to try to persuade the American people by putting their credibility behind this that a false fact was true.
And we just told Lara that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court 20 minutes ago decided that they're not going to count the ballots without dates on them in Pennsylvania.
Well, look, that's the right thing to do. Voter integrity is crucially important. Lara Trump is a terrific, terrific woman. And, I live in Florida. And she's somebody I could easily vote for if she runs for the Senate.
That's what I know. That's what you tell the IRS. You live in Florida. I'm not going to say anything different.
I'm leaving for Florida in about a week, so next time you call me,
and I
guaranteed I'm
going to be living in Florida at least 186 days too.
Yeah, Professor Dershowitz, let's get to some of the. This is amazing. President Biden came out and he said he's going to lift some sanctions on Hamas and Hezbollah, and yet he's going after Israel. What is going on with this president?
I don't know. The same thing happened in the last days of the Obama administration when he allowed a resolution to go through that said that Israel's control of the holiest site in Judaism, the Western Wall, akin to the Vatican, to Catholicism, or Salt Lake City to Mormons, that was illegally occupied territory. That just was his revenge, Obama's revenge. That's what caused me to break my relationship with him. I knew Obama since he was a law school student. He invited me over and over again to the White House, including meetings in the Oval Office to advise him in Iran. But once he was agreeable not to veto that one-sided resolution calling Jerusalem occupied territory, that was it. I hope Biden's not going to do the same thing in his last week.
Well, he just ordered the Ukraine to shoot missiles to Moscow. But Putin is much too smart to start World War III.
I don't think we're going to see World War III. Certainly not, with Trump there, because he's a guy who, for 4 years, there were no wars. There was peace. There was no real terrorism in Israel. And I think that the new sheriff is going to start deterring people from acting badly. Already Iran has indicated it's not going to take revenge against Israel for its destruction of so many of the facilities because they're afraid of Trump. And so I think already he's having an impact even before he's elected, much like Ronald Reagan had an impact on getting the hostages back from Iran even before he was elected, and they were released at the moment of his inauguration. I suspect we'll see a little bit of that going on as well.
Professor Dershowitz, thank you so much for coming on. We love you.
Thank you, Professor.
We'll talk to you again real soon.
And also, by the way, Professor, I want to give you a shout out on your new book that you're giving out to 1 million college students, 1,000 around the world. 10 big anti-Israel lies and how to refute them with truth. Love it.
By the way, we're going to give him the other book, too, and he's coming on right after Professor Dershowitz. Johnny Gasparino. Go woke, go broke.
Yeah, I agree with that, too.
Thank you, Professor.
Right. This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.